This is the literature passage from the official SAT Practice 2, which I will walk you through in the next couple of minutes. I'll leave the link of the test paper down below, and it would be really helpful if you can check the passage first and then watch this video. This passage was excerpted from one of the classics written by Charlotte Bronte, published in 1857, which indicates that the passage itself should be hard to understand. If you encounter classic novels such as this, chances are it'll be a challenge for you. On the other hand, contemporary novels should be much easier. I'm not going to walk you through this entire passage. Feel free to pause the video and read the passage yourself if you want to. The wording in syntax here is not quite the way we are accustomed to. The main idea of this passage is about the narrator's inner thoughts about working for a spiteful employer. Without further ado, let's jump into the questions. I'll leave the first question to the last when we have solved all other questions because during the process of cracking these questions, our comprehension of the passage would be improved as well, so it'll be easier for us to do it then. Question 2 is a question with a reference line number, which is the first sentence of the passage. I have a rule that whenever the given reference is long enough, I won't check any information beyond that given location because extra information would just confuse me and lead me to the wrong answer. Remember that any unmentioned details are wrong, so let's check the first sentence only, which I think is long enough. No man likes to acknowledge that he has made a mistake in the choice of his profession, and every man worthy of the name will roll along against the wind and tide before he allows himself to cry out, I am baffled, and submits to be floated passively to land. You might find this sentence daunting, but when you read it again, you kind of get the idea that this is the inner voice of the narrator, who tried to explain his personal character. He wants to declare that he is not an easy quitter. If he quits something, at least he has tried hard. Okay, with this information in our mind, let's check the answers for question 2. We can easily cross out C and D because Edward Crimsworth plight and malicious conduct were unmentioned details, but I'm not sure about A and B. The tricky part of SAT is always to find the right answer among two confusing choices. So let's check A and B again and see if there is anything in the answer that we don't like. Since any unmentioned details are wrong, we prefer answers with broad and general description instead of those specific details. According to this theory, B is way more preferable to A because choice B doesn't contain anything off-putting, while choice A has the word controversy, which after we mull it over is something unmentioned in the opening sentence of the passage. So the answer is B. Question 3 is about the structure of the first paragraph, but let's take a close look at these answers first. They're all structured in a certain way. The answers are all divided into two parts by the word to. This is important. For this type of question, I usually check the first part of the answer, the part before the word to. I call it the A part, which should be about the very beginning of this paragraph. In this case, about the first 10 lines of this first paragraph. Which talks about his dissatisfaction with his job. So we can easily eliminate A because past confidence is unmentioned, and B because his expectations of life are unmentioned, and D because there is no evaluation in the first 10 lines of the passage. So the answer is C. Question 4 is what I call the vocab 2 question, which asks for the purpose of the words or phrases. Here the question asks about the purpose of these two words, shade and darkness. From these two words, I realized that the answer should be about something dark, something unpleasant or negative. I don't think the answer D can convey this spirit, so we are left with A, B, and C. Then we go back to the passage and check the sentence that contains these words. But this was not all. The antipathy which has sprung up between myself and my employer striking deeper root and spreading denser shade daily excluded me from the sunshine of life, which means that his relationship with his boss made his life miserable. So B is wrong because the phrase sinister thoughts means evil thoughts, which is too much. C is wrong because the fear of confinement is unmentioned here, so the answer is A. Question 5 requires you to find the evidence in the passage based on which to form your answer. Since it's the fifth out of 10 questions, I think the location of the evidence would be in the middle part, and the sentence we look for should be about the character Edward Crimsworth. So it should be in the second paragraph, and the exact number is here, 44 to 45. Had I been in anything inferior to him, he would not have hated me so thoroughly, which means that Mr. Crimsworth's behavior was motivated by his envy of the narrator. So the answer is D, jealousy. Questions 6 and 7 are related command of evidence questions. Question 7 asks you to find the evidence for the answer you picked for question 6. Like what I did in previous videos, I always recommend finding the evidence first, that is to say, to solve question 7 first. Since the evidence should be related to the question being asked, it has to be about our narrator's attitude toward Mr. Crimsworth when he began working for him. Evidence A, B, and C do talk about narrator's negative attitude toward his boss, but they don't mention the time frame, while evidence D says, I had long ceased to regard Mr. Crimsworth as my brother, which means at the beginning of the relationship, he did regard Mr. Crimsworth as his brother. This is called inverse logic, which is very commonly used in SAT, so evidence D mentions both the attitude and the time frame of that attitude. So we can lock in evidence D for question 7, based on which the answer for question 6 is very obvious. The narrator viewed his boss as his brother and ally at first, so it's B. Question 8 gives you a reference paragraph, the second paragraph, and wants you to find the information about the comparisons of qualities to a lynx and a snake. We can easily find the sentence here in the passage about these two animals. But I was guarded by 3 faculties: caution, tact, observation, and prowling and prying as was Edward's malignity. It could never baffle the lynx eyes of these, my natural sentinels. Day by day did his malice watch my tact, hoping it would sleep and prepare to steal snake-like on a slumber, but tact never sleeps. The narrator likens himself to lynx and Mr. Crimsworth to the snake, to indicate a rivalry between them. So A is wrong because there is no action mentioned here. B is wrong because there is no resolution here. C is close but wrong because the altercation, which means argument, is unnecessary inference here. The passage talks about the hostile relationship between them. It doesn't actually mean that there has to be a public fight. So the answer is D, adversarial relationship. The last 2 questions are command of evidence questions. Like always, I will lock in the evidence for question 10 first. The evidence I look for should be about the narrator's living quarters, so immediately I choose evidence D because it is the only evidence among the 4 choices that talks about his living quarters. See on line 70 the word lodging, it gives the right answer away. Then we check the evidence. As I approach my lodgings, I turn from a general view of my affairs to the particular speculating as to whether my fire would be out. Looking towards the window of my sitting room, I saw no cheering red gleam. Basically, it talks about the narrator's frustration about the bleak atmosphere of his place. A, treacherous, and C, predictable or easily eliminated. I think B and D are close, but after a close look, the bleak atmosphere doesn't mean it's intolerable. I think B, dreary, would be more fitting. Don't forget to go back to the first question, which can be easily solved now because we roughly know what the passage is about. The main idea of literature can either be the climax of the story if the story has a climax, or the broad general summarization of the plot. Any details other than the climax are wrong. So B is wrong because there are no 2 characters employed in the same office, but a boss and an employee. C is wrong because the narrator didn't defend anybody publicly. B is wrong because there is no optimism whatsoever in the passage. So we choose A. So this is the entire walkthrough of this literature passage of the second official SAT practice test. I have to say that this is a hard passage to crack. I highly recommend you guys to download the material and do the passage yourself, through which you can improve your SAT reading skills more quickly. I hope you guys like this video. Please drop a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll make more SAT related videos later. Peace.